رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hopefully it's going to be a short reminder, inshallah, for myself and first and foremost, and then for everyone else, whoever can benefit, inshallah. So, just want to remind about the 7 types that are shaded on the Day of Judgment, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us in the hadith. Number 1 is a just ruler. Number 2, a youth who grows up in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 3, a man or person whose heart is attached to the masjid. Number 4, 2 people who love each other for the sake of Allah. Number 5, someone who resists direct temptation from the opposite gender. Number 6, a person who is completely selfless or unselfish with their charity. And number 7 is a person who remembers Allah in private and shed tears in doing so. So a just ruler, of course, could be a person who holds authority over other Muslim affairs and they fulfill it justly. A youth who grows up in the worship of Allah, or the youth, and they grow up staying away from the temptations of this dunya as much as they can, and being fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know in this society, in this day and time, it's pretty hard to do so. So for those youth who are able to do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hopefully give them the shade on the Day of Judgment. And the 3rd person or type is a person whose heart is attached to the masjid. And alhamdulillah, there are people that are still, even though we're in times of COVID, but their hearts, they yearn to be at the masjid. They still want to come whenever they can. And if they're not there, they're not able. There were times that we weren't able to come, but their hearts were still wanting to come. And so these type of people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him his shade on the Day of Judgment. And number 2 is 2 people who love each other for the sake of Allah. And they do this love, they love each other for only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they don't do it for anything else except because they do it for the love. They don't do it for the dunya, they don't do it because, I need to meet him so I can grab something from him and so forth. They're doing it because they want to meet each other for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only for that reason. And the 5th again, someone who resists the temptation of the opposite gender. And may Allah protect us from, this temptation, but it's a very hard test to go through. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how we will act if we are put in that situation. And so for this person to resist this temptation is very big. And again, this time and age, it's, social media can see it. And the 6th, a person who is unselfish with their charity. They give money so much so forth that the left hand wouldn't know what they give with the right hand. Meaning that nobody knows, they just give without really thinking about how much they're giving. They're just giving just for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the 7th is a person who remembers Allah in private and sheds tears in doing so. From all of these, what we can take from all of these is that, again, in the first of our reminders during this series was from Sheikh Suleiman, was that it was about sincerity. Right? All of this has to be done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The just ruler, he's being just for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's doing it because he's fearful of Allah. The youth, again, fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person who's attached to the masjid is the house of Allah. He loves the house of Allah. Again, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 2 people love each other for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The 5th one, resisting the temptation. Doing it, why? They know that it's very tempting, but they do it because they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, for Allah. And the sixth, giving charity so much that even the left hand doesn't know, or the right hand doesn't know. The left hand doesn't know. Again, only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for the people. They're not doing it to show off. This is doing it only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the seventh, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in private. And this is something that, we can all take. On the day of judgment, it's going to be a hard day. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this hadith, is telling us that there's these 7 types of people that will be shaded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And most of us can do some of these things, but something I think I myself, we should try, is that we should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we are alone. Okay? We remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a group, but when you're alone by yourself, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows you and what, you really feel. If you're able to cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by yourself, that means hopefully that you have a good heart. When we watch a movie, or we read a story, or we hear a story, when it's a sad story, we cry. We should put ourselves in that same type of situation, put ourselves in a sad story type of situation. In that way, and when you're alone, then you're able to hopefully cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in private. And if you are able to do this, then hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you and make us amongst those who are shaded on the day of judgment. And the last reminder that I want to give is, what the best reminder is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any words that I say or people say is nothing compared to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to be reminded, myself included, if we want to be reminded, we should read the Quran, we should read the meaning of the Quran and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. And again, picture yourself, in those situations. If you're, again, anybody's words, there's nothing compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, first Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words, then the words of the Prophet, then the words of Allah first, then the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I want to leave with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everybody to think about. As Allah, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kalla idha dukkatil ardu dakkan dakka. Nay, when the earth has been leveled, pounded, and crushed. So this is the day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will crush the mountains and everything on earth. وَجَاءَ رَبُّكَ وَالْمَلَكُ صَفًّا صَفًّا. The day and your Lord has come with angels, صَفًّا صَفًّا, ranks upon ranks. وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ وَأَنَّى لَهُ الذِّكْرَى. And on that day, it will be brought, on this day, hell will be brought. That day, man will remember. But what good will be for him to remember? يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي قَدَّمْتُ لِحَيَاتِي. This person will say, oh, I wish I had sent some good for my life. فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُعَذِّبُ عَذَابَهُ أَحَدٌ. So on that day, no one will punish as his punishment, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُعَذِّبُ عَذَابَهُ أَحَدٌ وَلَا يُوثِقُ وَثَاقَهُ أَحَدٌ. And none will bind as his binding. يَا أَيَّتُهَا النَّفْسُ الْمُطْمَئِنَّةِ. O reassured soul, O soul, be reassured. ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. And it will be said, return to your Lord, well pleased and pleasing to him. فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. Enter among my righteous servants and enter my paradise. And why I bring up these ayats is for that seventh type of person that when they're with Allah, when they're by themselves, and they're thinking, about the situation of the Day of Judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes with the angels, and then hell will be brought forth. Think about that day when you're alone, driving home alone. Where will you be? None of us can escape this. Think about your situation. Again, think about your story. How will it end? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to be the one? Are we going to be punished as with the severe punishment? Or are you going to be amongst the one that says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with? Enter among my servants and enter my paradise. And so this is my reminder, for everybody, again, that the best reminder are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should read it and contemplate about the words of Allah. Whatever we say is nothing. But when you yourself contemplate, sit down and read the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, Allah, you will see what impact it will do to your heart. And again, we should try to be amongst these 7 people that, one of these 7 that will be shaded on the Day of Judgment. And with this, I close, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.